John's heart swelled with purpose, and for the first time he felt no fear, only determination. The alien woman's glow softened, and she knelt in the water as if acknowledging him, respecting the human spirit that had met her gaze without running. Without words, they shared a moment of understanding. A promise that this connection was not temporary, that he would return and in time help others to awaken. He realized then that destiny was not something that happened to him. It was something he could shape. He had been given the chance to grow, to learn, to rise, and he accepted it fully, feeling a sense of power and humility together. As the first light of dawn touched the creek, John stood transformed, not just in body or mind but in spirit. The alien woman lingered in the water, her glow fading slowly, but he knew it was not the end, only the beginning. The forest, the creek, the stars. They all seemed to bow in quiet reverence to the potential now awakened within him. John walked back to his home, each step purposeful, each breath filled with the knowledge that life was no longer ordinary. He was part of a story larger than himself, a story where humans could rise, connect, and achieve greatness beyond imagination. From that day forward, he returned often to the creek, not just to see her but to learn, to grow, and to prepare for the moment he could share this knowledge with the world. The alien woman had changed him forever, and through him, the spark of something extraordinary had begun to shine in humanity. And in the quiet of the forest, under the glow of the stars, John knew one truth above all. Sometimes, destiny finds us in the most ordinary places, but only those who are brave enough to see it, to reach for it, can truly change the course of their world. The nights that followed, John could not stop thinking about the alien woman. Her glowing presence in the creek haunted his mind, calling him back as if the forest itself had chosen him. He returned quietly, careful not to scare her, each step soft over the damp earth. His heart thumped with a mix of fear, excitement, and wonder. When he reached the creek, she was there, kneeling in the shallow water, her silver hair floating like liquid light. Her eyes turned toward him, and this time she did not disappear. Instead, she watched him with patience, a calm understanding in her gaze. John felt a strange warmth spread through him, as if being near her was both safe and electrifying. He tried to speak. I don't mean to frighten you." His voice shook, words almost failing him. She responded with a soft melodic sound, a hum that rose and fell like music. But John felt he understood her. Not with his ears, but inside his mind, her song was full of meaning, a language of feeling rather than words. Curious and emboldened, John stepped closer, holding out a small twig he had picked from the forest floor. It was a simple gesture, a way to show friendship. She lowered her hand to touch it, and when their fingers nearly met, John felt a tingling rush, like a tiny spark of energy passing between them. The alien woman then pointed toward the stars above. Tilting her head and making soft musical notes, John followed her gaze, noticing the constellations, but they seemed different, alive, as if they were moving and breathing in ways he had never seen. He realized she was trying to show him something, trying to teach him, or perhaps share a secret of her world. John swallowed hard. "Are you alone?" he asked. The hum turned into a series of gentle waves, rising and falling, conveying a sense of both yes and no. He sensed that she was part of a larger presence, a species that watched and learned, yet she had chosen to meet him, chosen to reach out, encouraged. John sat by the creek, letting her approach. Their connection grew silently, like two rivers merging into one. He could feel her thoughts brush against his mind, images of her world, strange landscapes with glowing plants and skies filled with unfamiliar lights. It was overwhelming, but also breathtaking. Then she did something unexpected. She touched the water, and the ripples formed shapes, glowing symbols that shimmered like liquid fire. John stared, trying to understand, and somehow he did, at least in part. He realized she was communicating in a form of pure thought, showing him emotions and ideas rather than words. A deep calm settled over him. The creek and forest no longer felt ordinary. The alien woman was teaching him patience, trust, and connection, showing him that there were ways to understand beings beyond human senses. That night, John did not speak much, but he listened with all his heart, feeling the music of her presence, feeling the strange bridge growing between them. Before he left, she bent forward and touched the water again, a soft ripple washing toward him. It felt like a promise, a silent invitation to return, to learn more, to continue this strange, extraordinary connection. John walked back to his home slowly, each step heavy with awe and curiosity. knowing that he had crossed a threshold into a story he could never walk away from. He did not yet understand the full truth of who she was, or why she had chosen him. But he knew one thing clearly. His life would never be the same again. The creek had become a place of discovery, and he, an ordinary man, had begun a journey into the unknown, guided by an alien presence that was as beautiful as it was mysterious. Days passed, but John could not forget the alien woman. Her glowing presence in the creek and the strange, musical language of her thoughts lingered in his mind like a faint light in the dark. He began to notice subtle changes in himself. Small things at first, like sharper hearing, the ability to sense movements in the forest before they happened, even feeling the flow of the creek as if it were alive inside him. One night he returned to the creek, drawn by the same pull he could no longer resist. She was there, kneeling in the water as always, her silver hair drifting like liquid moonlight. But tonight there was something different, a faint energy radiating from her, pulsing in time with his own heartbeat. John stepped closer and felt a warmth spreading through him. Like a current connecting their souls, he realized with a shock that the changes in him were not random. She had done something to him, something beyond human understanding. His mind felt clearer, sharper. He could see patterns in the trees and the flowing water, even in the night sky. As he watched her, he understood a little more of what she had been trying to teach, that there was more to life than ordinary human senses, that there was a rhythm and intelligence in all things. Suddenly she stood, and the water around her shimmered and glowed. Forming shapes and symbols in the air, they looked like maps, constellations, and strange geometric patterns. John's heart pounded. He realized she was showing him something crucial, a secret of her world and, perhaps, a secret of humanity itself. He reached out, and the glowing shapes moved toward him, touching his hands, his arms, and spreading over his chest. He felt a strange warmth, and then a vision came to him, not with words but images, flashes of stars, alien landscapes, and beings of light moving with grace and purpose. He saw glimpses of his own life, but changed, connected to something bigger, something extraordinary. The alien woman's eyes met his, and in that gaze John understood the truth. She had chosen him because of his curiosity, his courage, his kindness, qualities rare among humans. She had been observing humanity, learning, and now she was testing, guiding, teaching, and he had passed her silent test. John realized he had been given a gift, a link to something far beyond Earth, something that could make him more than he had ever imagined. He could feel it in his bones, in his mind, in his heart, a potential waiting to be awakened. Yet with the gift came responsibility, a subtle weight pressing on him, reminding him that curiosity alone was not enough, that he must act wisely. The woman extended her hand, and this time, John took it without hesitation. The moment their hands touched, the glow surged, not painfully, but like a rush of knowledge and understanding flowing into him. He saw himself walking a path between two worlds, a bridge between human and alien, a chance to connect, learn, and grow beyond the limits he had always known. He stepped back, awed and trembling, the creek around him returning to its gentle, flowing state, but he knew he had been changed forever. This was no longer a quiet life by the forest, no longer just a human existence. He was part of something bigger, and the alien woman had opened his eyes to a destiny he could never have imagined. As he left the creek that night, the stars seemed brighter, the forest more alive, and the world full of possibilities. He felt courage he had never known, a deep curiosity and longing to understand, and a strange sense of purpose that he could not ignore. John smiled to himself, knowing that the next step, the true journey, was just beginning. The creek, once ordinary, had become a doorway, and he, an ordinary man, had stepped through into a story of wonder, courage, and destiny. The following nights, John returned to the creek with a mix of excitement and reverence. The alien woman waited for him each time, her glow brighter, her presence more commanding yet gentle. He could feel the energy in the air, a quiet hum of life and intelligence that made the forest pulse with rhythm. Tonight, however, was different. She stepped forward from the water, her eyes locked on his, and John felt a wave of clarity wash over him. All the changes he had noticed, his sharper senses, his intuition, the deep connection to the forest were no accident. She had awakened something within him, something extraordinary. She communicated not with words but with light and feeling, showing him visions of her world, a civilization advanced and peaceful, full of beings who lived in harmony with knowledge and nature. John understood almost instinctively that she and her kind had been observing Earth for centuries, watching humanity, learning, and now choosing certain individuals to guide. You have courage, curiosity, and kindness, John felt her thought echo in his mind. You are ready to bridge worlds. Her glowing hand moved toward him, and when he touched it, he felt a surge of energy unlike anything he had ever known. A link to knowledge, wisdom, and power that went beyond human limits. John stumbled back, awestruck, realizing he was no longer the same man who had first discovered the creek. He could feel the pulse of the forest, the flow of the creek, even the rhythm of the stars above. It was as if the universe had whispered its secrets to him, and he had finally listened. She then showed him visions of Earth, but different, alive with possibilities, with humans capable of rising beyond their fears, beyond their limits. Her silent message was clear. Humanity had potential, and he had been chosen to be a spark, a bridge between the ordinary and the extraordinary. A bridge between the ordinary and the extraordinary. The evening was calm, the sun slowly sinking behind the hills, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. John, a quiet man who lived alone at the edge of the forest, decided to take his usual walk along the creek behind his house. The creek was small and peaceful, its water flowing gently over the smooth rocks, and the trees along its banks swayed softly in the wind. Birds chirped and insects hummed, filling the air with a familiar, soothing melody. John loved these walks. They gave him time to think and forget the worries of his ordinary life. But tonight something felt different. A strange energy seemed to hang in the air, making the forest feel alive in a way he had never noticed before. As he walked deeper along the creek, he noticed a soft shimmer in the water up ahead. It was faint at first, almost like a reflection of the moon, but then he saw movement and his heart skipped a beat. Hiding behind a thick bush, John leaned forward to see what it was, and his eyes widened. A figure was in the water, a woman unlike any human he had ever seen. Her skin glowed softly in the moonlight, almost as if tiny stars were dancing beneath her skin. Her hair floated in the water like strands of silver silk, and her eyes were bright, shining with colors he could not name. John's mind raced. He had heard stories of strange creatures in the forest, of lights and shadows that moved on their own, but he had never believed them. Yet here, in front of his eyes, was something real, something alive. He could not take his eyes off her. She moved gracefully in the water, washing herself with careful, delicate motions. Her beauty was not just in her face, it was in every movement, every gesture, every small detail. Suddenly the woman turned her head, and John froze. Their eyes met, and it was like nothing he had ever felt. There was a depth in her gaze, an intelligence and curiosity, but also something soft, something kind. It felt like she could see right into him, his thoughts, his fears, his loneliness. John's heart pounded. He wanted to run, to hide, but he could not. He was rooted to the spot. The woman smiled, a small, gentle smile that made the hair on his arm stand on end. Then, just as quickly, she looked away, her attention back to the water. John's curiosity overpowered his fear. He took a small step forward, careful not to make a sound. He wanted to get a better look, to understand what he was seeing. But the moment he moved, the water shimmered, and she vanished. For a moment, John thought he had imagined it. Maybe it was a trick of the light, a reflection in the water. But the feeling in the air told him otherwise. Something extraordinary had just happened, and he knew he would never forget it. He stayed there for a long time, staring at the empty water, trying to convince himself that it was real. Each sound of the forest seemed louder now. Every rustle of leaves, every splash in the creek made him jump. Finally, he turned to leave, but his mind was full of questions. Who was she? Where did she come from? Was she human or something else entirely? He had no answers, only a strange pull in his chest, as if the forest itself wanted him to return, to see her again, to understand her. John walked back to his house slowly, every step heavy with thought. The world felt different now, alive in ways he could not explain. That night, John could not sleep. He kept thinking about the woman, her glowing skin, her bright eyes, the way she had looked at him. It was like she had left a mark on his soul, a small spark of something new, something mysterious. He wanted to see her again, but he also feared what might happen if he did. The forest outside his window seemed to whisper his name, calling him back to the creek. Morning came, but John's thoughts were still with her. He walked to the creek again, hoping to see some sign of her, but there was nothing, only the flowing water, the familiar trees, the chirping birds. It was as if she had never been there, yet deep inside he knew she had been real, and that this encounter would change something in him, something he could not yet understand, John did not know it. But this strange discovery was only the beginning. His ordinary life was about to shift in ways he could never imagine. And the woman in the creek, with her otherworldly beauty, would come to change his destiny. The next evening, John could not shake the memory of the glowing woman in the creek. Her face, her eyes, the way she had smiled at him. It played in his mind over and over. He walked past his small garden, past the old oak tree, and towards the creek, each step faster than before, his heart hammering with both fear and excitement. When he reached the creek, the moon hung low and bright, casting silver light over the water. He paused at the edge, scanning the ripples and shadows. But there was nothing, only the soft flow of water over rocks. He felt a pull in his chest, a quiet whisper urging him to go further. To look closer, John crouched behind a bush, careful not to make a sound, and then he saw her, or at least a faint shimmer in the water. She was smaller than he expected, kneeling in the shallow part of the creek, her hair floating like silver threads on the water. But tonight she seemed aware of him from the start, her glowing eyes turning slowly to meet his. He froze, the air around him thick with tension. And yet he felt strangely safe. It was as if she was not a threat, but a being who understood him in ways no human ever had. He wanted to step forward, to speak, but words failed him. His throat was dry, his mind buzzing with questions. Then, in a move that startled him, she lifted her hand, just slightly, and John understood it was an invitation, a silent gesture of trust. Gathering courage, he moved a few steps closer, keeping low behind the bushes. He left a small stone by the edge of the creek, a simple offering. Unsure if she would even notice, she bent forward and touched the stone, her fingers brushing it lightly, the water rippling around her hands. In that moment, John felt a shock of energy, like a tiny spark jumping from the stone to him. He stumbled back slightly, eyes wide, and she watched him. Tilting her head as if amused by his reaction, John realized she was not human, not entirely. Yet there was something familiar in her, something almost like a reflection of humanity. The way she observed him, the patience in her movements, it made him feel connected, like they shared a secret he could not yet name. For several minutes neither moved, only watched, and the creek seemed to hold its breath with them. Then slowly she began to hum a soft musical tune, notes that felt like colors and shapes. Words he could not understand but somehow seemed to make sense in his mind. It was a language of feeling, of emotion, and John felt tears prick his eyes. Curiosity overpowered fear, and he whispered her name. "Are you real?" His voice shook. The alien woman tilted her head, and the faint glow around her flickered as if acknowledging his words. She did not speak, but she held out her hand toward him. A small invitation, an offering of trust. John wanted to take it, but a voice in his head whispered caution. Was this a trick, a trap, or some strange test he did not understand? But then he realized something. The pull he had felt since the first night. The spark in his chest was not fear. It was destiny calling, guiding him to this moment slowly, carefully. He stepped closer, and as he did, the moonlight caught the water around her, making her glow even brighter. His reflection in the water mixed with hers, and for a fleeting moment, he felt like he was seeing himself through her eyes, seeing both the ordinary man and the potential he never knew he had. And then, just as he reached out, she dipped her hand into the water and a soft wave washed toward him. As if testing his reaction, John froze again, realizing this was not a game, but an exchange. A silent communication of trust and understanding. If he moved too fast, she might vanish. If he hesitated, he might lose her forever. He took a deep breath, steadying his nerves, and nodded slightly. She seemed to sense his resolve. The water rippled gently, and a soft smile appeared on her face. The creek that had once been ordinary was now a bridge between their worlds, a place where curiosity and courage met mystery and magic. John knew in that instant that he would return night after night, that he could not ignore the pull of her presence. The creek had changed, the forest had changed, and he too was beginning to change, ready to step into a story much larger than himself, a story of connection, courage, and discovery. A story of connection, courage, and discovery.